This is another one of those movies that could be on a list of the worst films ever made. It's incredibly stupid and pretty incoherent overall. I still don't really understand the plot. However, I don't regret watching it. I actually regret that it took me so long to watch it, because it's a perfect movie to cover on this show. Hey guys, welcome back to the show, and on this episode I'm going to be talking about Frankenstein Island, a movie that's been requested a few times, and believe it or not, it's actually weirder than it sounds. This movie came out in 1981, but in a lot of ways it feels older than that, and there's kind of a reason for why that is. This movie was directed and produced by Jerry Warren, and he made a bunch of cult films in the 1950s and 60s. In 1966, he made The Wild World of Batwoman, and then he basically lost all interest in the film industry and not only stopped making movies, he stopped watching them as well. So it makes sense that this movie feels kinda dated. In fact, Jerry Warren later said that he felt he didn't make the movie modern enough. It all starts with 4 men and a dog in a hot air balloon trying to break the long distance record. The balloon gets sucked into a tornado and crashes into the ocean, I guess. Too bad we don't actually get to see any of that. But now they're stranded on a remote island somewhere. The details surrounding the crash are hazy at best, and it leaves us all with some questions. Like, where did they get that inflatable raft? Did they bring it with them on the hot air balloon? For some reason, they seem pretty excited to be stranded on this island, running around, playing with the sand. This movie has some familiar faces in it, people that you've probably seen on this show before. There's a couple actors from the giant spider invasion. The priest from that movie is in here, basically picking up right where he left off.
Get on your knees, you sinner! You are a sinner! That is what you are!
Yeah, quite honestly, if I just survived a hot air balloon crash into the ocean, I would probably be thinking about food and shelter first before I started being a judgmental dick to my friends, but that's just me.
You know, if we could find some dry wood, we could light a fire, or maybe we can build a raft.
Yes, if only we had some wood, we could build a raft. Something that we desperately need to get off this island. A raft kind of similar to this perfectly usable raft that I'm holding on to right now, but we can't use this. Nah, this is trash. Can't trust it. It's filled with air, and air is what got us into this mess in the first place. So Curtis, Paul, Mark, and Dino start checking out the island and decide the smartest thing to do is go into a cave. Yes, find the darkest place and start wandering around in it. And if you happen to see a random image of a legendary actor pop up out of nowhere, that's just an added bonus to your adventure. Curtis, the accusatory one, is saying how something reminds him of a place back home, and suddenly his hand is paralyzed by some kind of a hand paralyzing ray. I'm sure this will all be explained at some point, and it will make total sense. Then they see a bunch of rubber skulls and a woman strung up between 2 trees, and instead of, I don't know, trying to help her, Dino runs over to Melvin, the dog, because, you know, dogs need attention too. This brings me to the many reasons why I think you should never go up in a hot air balloon. Reason number 1, it's a balloon, and balloons are known to pop. Think about how loud that would be. Reason number 2, you could get splinters from the wicker basket, and nobody likes those. And reason number 3, you could end up getting sucked into a tornado and crashing onto an island filled with bikini-clad women like this. Which might not sound so bad, but, you know, what if they're mean?
You are pretty.
But they're actually very nice. Suspiciously nice. So Curtis starts introducing everyone.
And this is Mark, and that's Dino. Paul Hadley, we call him Doc because he's, you know,
A doctor? I think the word you're looking for is doctor. You could have just said that. You're not playing password. So they take them to their campfire, and this is very disappointing. There's not a marshmallow in sight. They serve them some kind of food and then start dancing. So this is pretty sweet. I mean, what could be better than this? I mean, there's some skulls on the ground, so that's kind of concerning, but nonetheless, it's a free dinner and a show, which may or may not end with murder. The next day, they go and untie that girl who's been strung up for God only knows how long. You might think this is some kind of torture, but no, this is just hardcore hammocking. It really helps stretch everything out. See, look how happy she is. Masseuses hate her. Never pay for a massage again with this one simple trick. Curtis mentions Kansas City, and once again his arm is paralyzed by some kind of invisible ray. I guess somebody out there isn't a Royals fan. Suddenly, a man wearing an outfit that seems like it would be much too hot for this climate kidnaps one of the girls, but eventually middle age hits and his back gives out. The girls tell the guys to let him go. That's Zyrid. He tries this often. He was normal until they experimented on him. So he's just free to do this whenever he wants? That's interesting. Well, what is punishable? Because clearly some people were punished. What did they do? Then these two other guys show up and they're like, hey, don't blame us for all the attempted kidnappings. You know, that just comes with the territory of living here. You should be thankful for the mirrors we brought you. And if you're confused by all of this, join the club. Most of the movie is like this. A lot of it makes no sense and it's very hard to follow. Anyways, they go back to camp so that they can smoke out of skulls. So Mark is like, hey, this is messed up. Let's get out of here.
I suggest we get on our horses and get out of here right now.
Well, there's no question they're deep into witchcraft.
I like how that's what concerns him the most about this whole situation. I mean, sure, we're stranded on this island and our families back home have no idea what happened to us, but these girls are smoking and I don't think that's allowed. Plus, they're probably into black magic, so we really gotta get off this island right now. Meanwhile, Curtis has finally solved the mystery as to why his arm keeps getting paralyzed.
It is when you make the particular place, not here, but on the outside road, that's when the power hits you.
Yeah, so every time you talk about a place that isn't here, someone, somewhere, uses a special power to paralyze your left arm. Which seems very arbitrary, but I'm sure the movie will explain this in detail at some point. And it will make perfect sense. So the two weird guys show up again, and they're like, hey, why don't you come with us? And they're like, yeah, okay, that sounds like a good idea. I mean, we were going to try and leave the island, but this sounds much more interesting. After a while, they reach this house, and Jocko, the guy with the eye patch, is like, let me try to get you an invitation into the house. May take a while, may not. So they sit there all night waiting. I'm telling you right now, if it was me, after 5 minutes, I'd start walking back to the stoner chicks. Because at least with them, you get live entertainment. So they decide to just start wandering around this place and see what they can find. It's amazing they never thought to do this hours before. Inside this room, they find a guy in a cage named Clay Jason, and they're like, hey, how long have you been here? He says he was a sailor who was in a shipwreck, and after he checks his calendar, he tells them he's been held captive for 17 years. Anyways, then they're told they've been invited into the main house. I have no idea why it took so long, but whatever.
My best brandy, the oldest in stock. I'm Sheila Frankenstein.
How do you do?
I love how casual this whole situation is. It's like the characters haven't seen all the things that they've seen. Yes, this is all totally normal. So Sheila says that Dr. Frankenstein was her great-great-grandfather and that he originated everything on the island.
He originated everything on the island, including that power which paralyzes the arm.
Well, there you go. It was Dr. Frankenstein who created the power that paralyzes people's arms. What more do you need to know? Why and how? What are you, some kind of a detail freak? That's not important for some reason.
Frankenstein set many forces in action, and in doing so, created his own law. He still enforces it by channeling through my husband.
All right, now I know some people out there might have trouble grasping all of this because it's very sophisticated, so let me break it down for you. Dr. Frankenstein, who is dead, still controls the island and enforces the law by channeling through Sheila's husband, Dr. Van Helsing, who is stuck in a hospital bed in some kind of a trance, and they have to turn on this machine so that Frankenstein can speak through him. Oh, and that tornado that pulled them towards the island, That wasn't a tornado. That was dead Dr. Frankenstein using his powers to pull them in. He saw those 4 guys up in that hot air balloon and he was like, well, I gotta have them on my island. Okay? So are you up to speed now? Please try and keep up. This isn't very complicated. It all makes perfect sense. So they tell the fellas that they should help the girls on the island because the girls really like them. It's not a big deal. They just need to impregnate them to ensure future generations.
Perhaps some of you can serve to impregnate them in order to ensure future generations.
We have accommodations.
Yes, well, I think we better get back on the track of finding some kind of transportation. I don't mean to seem ungrateful, but we better get on with what we have to do.
I just want to say, I think it's very clear what we need to do. We need to stay and help those women. See, that's the problem with him. You can't trust him to do anything. He never wants to do any work. And when he does, it's always half-assed. I'm the exact opposite. That's why everybody calls me Mr. Full Ass. Because I go all the way. I don't stop until the job is done. Completely. So fine. You know what? I guess it's up to me then. I guess I'm going to have to impregnate all those women myself. Which is going to be a lot of hard work. I realize that. But you know what? I'm not a quitter. Unlike him. So I guess all the guys wearing black turtlenecks and jeans are zombies programmed to be guards.
What's happened to them?
They've gone through some elaborate changes.
Caused by what?
A quest of science.
And what does that mean? That's not an answer. And the guys are like, okay, let's just go along with this. I'm sure everything will be fine. Based on everything we've seen, people that washed up on this island being turned into zombies or imprisoned. Yeah, none of that's gonna happen to us. We're special. I mean, these guys could be hanging out with these chicks right now who are doing fun stuff like dancing and fire licking, but no, they had to get super judgy about all the witchcraft stuff, and now they're stuck in a laboratory, staring at a brain in a jar, and watching a riveting demonstration of Van Helsing's Ultramatic adjustable bed. Like I said before, I have absolutely no idea what's going on throughout a lot of this movie, and it's not like the movie makes an effort to clear this stuff up as it goes on. More things just keep getting added to the pile. Some scenes are just plain confusing and make no sense whatsoever. I mean, just look at this. What the hell is supposed to be happening here? It seems like all of the footage of John Carradine was shot in about 5 minutes. It pops up throughout the movie, but none of it makes any sense. He just keeps shouting about power.
The power shall be yours. The power, the power, the power, the power. The power awaits you.
And the characters never seem to be all that concerned with their situation or affected by the things going on around them. There's this scene where the zombies are wrestling or something, and Jocko reveals a dead body in a tank, and this is Curtis's reaction to that.
Hey, Jocko. Hey, how'd you lose the eye?
And then he starts fighting with the zombies, and Dino is amused by all of this. I guess the dead body is nothing to be worried about. Neither of you are at least curious as to what happened to this person and why.
We better start building that raft.
You have a raft! I mean, you had one. That's how you got to the island in the first place. I guess you threw it away for some reason? Not the best idea. But then again, the 4 of you aren't exactly known for making the smartest choices. All of this is so confusing and convoluted. Sheila says she has a plan to get Van Helsing out of the bed permanently, and he starts talking about the power that controls the one who attacks the girls, and that a power source has been set up to weaken him. I have no goddamn clue what the hell they're talking about. Oh yeah, by the way, all the girls are aliens. The zombie guards live on psychic energy, and Van Helsing is almost 200 years old. I hope you're following all of this, because I'm not.
All right, girls, now here's what we want you to do. I want you to go down to the woods and find some logs, some straight logs. You get them and you bring them back here. Oh, and I want a few of you to start weaving some rope.
Yes, you girls go find all the wood and rope to build us a raft. If you want us to help you by having sex with all of you, we're gonna need something in return here. I mean, that's only fair. What's happening in this scene? No idea. Some guy injects a mannequin with something. Not sure if this is even supposed to be in the movie. Meanwhile, back in the lab, Sheila fills out an order form for a new wig, and a pink lunchbox is spinning around on a table for some reason. Van Helsing now has a low pulse, so he's got to go back into the trance for 3 hours, and Dr. Frankenstein is sending power from the other realm for something, and the brain in the dome, that serves as an intermediary for something. Oh, and Frankenstein's monster is chained up underwater in the grotto. I don't think I can stress enough just how ridiculous this all is. You really have to watch the movie to get the full effect. It's just so unbelievably stupid. Absolutely no idea what in the hell is going on here. These guys are growing fangs now, and there's some kind of hypnosis involved. There's still 45 minutes left in this movie. It feels like I've been watching it for so much longer than I have, and it's probably because it's so frustrating. There's something here where they're trying to save Van Helsing with blood from one of the girls and a goat. There's really no explanation as to what they're actually doing. Just shots of scientific devices and doodads while they count down numbers and say things like, "Increase the voltage." In that sense, it reminds me of that other incredibly stupid movie with John Carradine, not Billy the Kid versus Dracula. I'm talking about the Astro Zombies. I hated that movie so much. That's the one where he plays a scientist and he spends all this time turning dials and just looking at stuff, but you have no idea what he's supposed to be doing. It's the same thing here. Yes, turn that dial. Go ahead, turn it some more. I have no idea what's supposed to be happening, so I'm not exactly on the edge of my seat. Van Helsing wakes up and is outraged that they had to give him animal blood in order to stabilize him. And it's like, dude, you're 200 years old. I don't think you're exactly in the position to be picky. And he's like, no, we tried that before you were even born, and it almost killed me. Well, then why don't you do it yourself, you old bastard, or give her the instructions on what to do? I guess they have to use Clay Jason's blood now. Don't know why they didn't do that in the first place. The guy's been locked in a cage there for 17 years. So Mark and Curtis are like, oh no, they're gonna take Clay Jason's blood. Who cares? You don't even know this guy. So that's what the movie has become at this point. Now it's the Great Blood Robbery. How compelling.
I'll need more blood.
So they're like, oh crap, the guards, they might try and stop us. Well, Sheila said the only way to kill them is by cutting them in half with a machine gun. And there's gotta be a machine gun around here somewhere. Hey look, there's one in this closet. Well, how convenient. I swear to God, I'm not making this up. That's actually what happens. All right, Sheila Frankenstein and Van Helsing, party's over. You're not gonna take blood from this guy that we barely know. That's where we draw the line.
Dino, check out the old man.
What exactly was he supposed to do there? Hey Dino, check out the old man. Okay. Yeah, he's an old man, all right. So the doctor is like, if he doesn't get the blood, he'll die. And then we'll lose the supernatural link between him and Dr. Frankenstein. So don't you see we have to save him? For science? That's what this is all about. Science! Sheila is like, hey, don't bump that brain. It's super important. And then she leaves to go turn on some machine. And I hope you're all still with me because here comes the big payoff. And when I say big payoff, what I really mean is incoherent circus of random shit. There's some weird crap on the screen, I don't know what this means, and then suddenly Frankenstein's monster emerges from under the water. I thought he was chained up under there, but whatever, anything goes at this point. The movie has established that the rules don't matter. Nothing has really made much sense since the beginning. They all bust into the lab, but oh no, the machine gun is jammed. I guess everyone is just gonna have to fight it out in what is easily one of the most hilariously awkward fight scenes that I've ever seen. It's up there with Santa Claus versus the Martians. It's so bad that I don't even know if you can call it a fight scene. There's parts where people are just kind of shuffling around. It's more of a struggle scene. And I know you'll be shocked to hear that there's stuff in here that doesn't make any sense because none of this was ever explained. What is this magic wand? Why does it give people fangs? What is this? Some kind of disintegrator ray gun? Where did this come from? Just look at this. Look at all the stuff on the screen here. Imagine shooting this and being like, yeah, this all makes sense. Really gels. Sheila is really worried that the brain is going to be destroyed. Well, maybe you should have put it in a safer location, Sheila. And Van Helsing is like, it's okay. If it's destroyed, the backup brain will activate in seconds. Because of course, you gotta have a backup brain on hand. Otherwise, what kind of a scientist are you? So the brain blows up and one of the girls is like, you guys gotta go get on that raft now before the backup brain kicks in. And then the movie just cuts to them back home telling the colonel about the whole thing. And I'm not kidding. The colonel is like, well, that's a pretty crazy story. And I wouldn't have believed it, but the raft you came in on was made of real logs. Yes, it's clear that those logs were rooted in the ground. So that's all the proof I need. So they all go back to the island with the army to save Clay Jason, and it's all gone. Must have been a hallucination. But wait, there's Melvin, the dog. So it did happen, but everything is gone somehow. So yeah, a pretty stupid ending, which is fitting, quite honestly, because it's a pretty stupid movie. But this really is something else, guys. This is easily one of the most hilariously bad movies I've ever seen. Jerry Warren talked about making a sequel that would be more up to date in 1985, but he died in 1988, so I guess we can only wonder what could have been. I want to thank all of my supporters on Buy Me a Coffee, Patreon, and my YouTube channel members. I want to thank all of you for tuning in. But that's pretty much it for this one, and I'll see you all next time. And you want to know what else? These guys, they're always making fun of me. They're always picking on me for the way that I dress. And it's really unfair. I mean, this is my personal style. Some people just enjoy the sensation of being gently strangled all the time. I don't think that's weird. Finally, one of the minions comes out and brings them a tray of food, and they're like, you think we're crazy enough to eat this? Even though you didn't bat an eye at the food that the chicks with the skulls brought you. I mean, think about it. That could have been people, right? Just saying, if you're concerned that this food might be something gross like human meat, you really should have been worried about that back then. I mean, they were the ones who had bones and skulls lying all over the place, so I think the chances were higher that that food was human meat. And I probably shouldn't assume that human meat is gross. I don't know. I've never tried it. You guys gotta get on that raft now before the backup brain kicks in. Come on, man.